Hi, this is Rashmi, and welcome to BPS Youth Voices Learning Series. This is session 4. So let me quickly switch to our presentation. Okay. So welcome again to the Youth Voices Project Learning Series. This is session 4. I'm Rashmi and Michelle. We are hosting the session today. So let's quickly get to the session. So today's session is about celebrating youth work. I'm sorry for the typo. And sort of focusing on how we can, bring youth media to a bigger audience. So in terms of that, we have Youth Voices Live, BPS Youth Voices Live. As mentioned, sometimes young people and educators get so focused on making the media projects that they forget the importance of sharing the completed work. And from the very beginning, if youth media artists identify the impact and the audience that they wish to communicate to, then and also sort of the best way to ensure that the desired impact is obtained by sharing the work and by seeking feedback or providing feedback. So sort of there is Youth Voices Live, which is the annual BPS showcase for youth voices projects for students. But in addition to that, there are AYV awards. We submit a lot of student work to different international scholarship opportunities like Creativity Scholarship or AYV awards and other international competitions, which provide that exposure for student media and students to seek feedback and provide feedback to a global audience. In addition to that, there are many community events. We have partnerships with BPS Arts Expansion, the Arts Department, and of course the STEAM movement, creativity movement in and around BPS, with the BPS community, Timothy Smith Network, Sim Boston, and many of our partners, including the Adobe Foundation. So that allows for a lot of the student work to get out and to seek feedback as well as provide feedback and get recognized for the amazing amount of creativity that this promotes. Having said that, today's session learning objectives are focusing on understanding the distinction between copyright and fair use, and how we can guide young people through these issues, considering the importance of targeting audience, however small or big that audience is. So sort of youth artists should be thoughtful when defining their audience, because it may be a much more specific group than they would first assume. No one media work is interesting to or appropriate for everyone. And having something viewed by millions of people online doesn't necessarily mean it has and will achieve the creator's intended impact. Youth can make works that are intended for just their peers or for a whole wide world, but sort of focusing on the audience from the get-go is very crucial. It's fine and can be another example of create with purpose, but the key is for the work to have an impact, no matter how big or small the audience may be. So we are also going to focus in terms of our learning objectives and exploring ideas and strategies for celebrating and exhibiting youth work, few of which we looked at just now, and sort of reflecting on opportunities for collaboration and reaching out to a wider audience, and creating and sharing and receiving feedback on the educator implementation plan, which will be one of the products for the session 4. We've looked at a series of projects in Google Slide, using Google Slides. So you're not restricted to using Adobe projects or products. You can use free projects or products like Pixlr or Google Slide or Google Drawing or Adobe Spark or many GIMP for that matter, or Inkscape. So there are many different products that will allow for you to, expose students in many different modalities, especially depending on, the kind of media or projects or computers you have in your classroom. So if you have a Chrome card, you could be accessing some of these free tools that we have looked at. So for example, we've looked at this is in Google Slide, which can be accessed through Chromebook cards, and you can do projects such as these. And these, just keeping in mind the dimensions of 19 by 13, so that we can print these projects, and the emphasis on the creativity aspect of it, create with purpose, and at the same time higher quality. So you could do that. And we've looked at some of these projects and designed a few of these projects in during one of our sessions. So this was focused on the women project in Google Slide. We also looked at the voice project, and we also looked at the Adobe Spark, which was one of these projects. We'll be designing one of these projects today, but we've already done one in, I believe, session 2. So you can take a look at that and see how Spark works in terms of creating poster projects and or video projects. And then today's design challenge is going to focus on using Photoshop elements. We'll be using that to create this wonderful typographic poster. Again, we emphasize porting your sources always, in sort of using copyright-free or adhering to Creative Commons copyright guidelines or attribution guidelines. But at the same time, if you are using this for educational purposes and practicing some of the media, you can use some of the media arts practice the tools, know how to work with the software or the skills embedded within this project. And then when you are submitting some of these projects for the Youth Voices Showcase or Adobe Youth Voices gallery, you need to make sure that the copyright guidelines are followed. And we'll take a look at that during today's session. Quickly, introductions and logistics. We have the Google Classroom, where we've been posting most of our resources. So you've completed session 7. And in here you have the webinar, you have the homework session, you've completed the exit pass, and also the poster that we've talked about. You've shared the environment, I Care Environment Project poster, and you get to give feedback using SAMS, the online SAMS, which the link to which is posted right here. You can also look at the poster and the video links for the SAMs, and they are right in here. And similar structure will be followed for the assignment 4 and the webinar 4. Please know that October 10th is going to be the final deadline for submissions. And for PDP credits, you do need to watch all webinars and submit all the assignments by October 10th. But if you are, if you don't complete the assignments and are interested in watching the webinars, they are posted in the DLT YouTube channel. So you can, in the Youth Voices playlist, so you can always watch them, view them anytime, or use them in your classroom. If you're joining us live, you're already on today's meet, but if you're not, this is the link for today's meet. Do join us there, and you can ask us questions or post any kind of, if you cannot hear the audio or video or have questions, that's the place to go. That link goes away after 3 hours, so it's only live during the live session. Quickly, we are going to move on to the media sample. So let's take a quick look at the media sample.
قبل 16 سنة فتحت عيوني على الدنيا، فتحتهم على كشرة مش مفهومة بتدل على حياة مش مضمونة، على وجوه من الحزن ومن الغيظ مهمومة. فتحتهم بأمل لأشوف خيبات الأمل مع بعيوني، فتحتهم على عقول بتحسسني تحسسني إنه مسؤوليتها تخطط لي حياتي مثل ما بدها ومثل ما الناس بتشوف. هاي المسؤولية الثقيلة اللي سببت لهم الأرق الدائم سببها إنه البلالين انحطت في المستشفى لما انولدت كانت زهرية مش زرعة. ومن لما وعيت على الدنيا كنت أحس إنه حياتي عبارة عن مربع أطول متر ممنوع أطلع أو أتحرك منه. هذا المربع اللي انرسم في اليوم اللي حكيت لكم عنه قبل 16 سنة. فأبوي ما كان يخليني أروح على رحلات المدرسة لأنه بيخاف علي، ما كان يخليني ألعب مع صحباتي لأنه ما عندنا بنات يلعبوا بالحارة. وأنا كنت أوقف على الشباك في المربع وغيره وعيوني على الحبلة اللي بنطوا فيها بالشارع. من جهة تانية كان عقلي بالقصص اللي كنت أسمعها عن البنت اللي انخطفت والولد اللي ضاع، وكان خوف أهلي منطقي ومبرر حتى بالنسبة لطفل عمره 6 سنين. ومن الحارة لبيوت صحباتي للحدائق والمنتزهات حاولت أطلع حالي شوي شوي من هالمربع الأزلي، مع اندلاع مناوشات ونزاعات طبعا عند كل محاولة. ما عنا بنات يطلعوا يتمشوروا هون وهون، دايما كان الرد. صحيح إني كبرت وتغيرت طلباتي، بس الواقع ما تغير. لسه في بنات بتنخطف وولاد بتضيع وأب بيخاف على بناته، وأنا ما بيطلع بإيدي إلا أحكي وأحس على نصرة. كبرت العيال وخلصت توجيهي وصارت بدها تدرس، وطبعا المشورة العائلية لا يمكن الاستغناء عنها. فتعاونت القوات الذكورية الحاكمة في المنزل على وضع خارطة طريق لتحديد مصيري خلال ال4 سنوات المقبلة. وقد ما شارعنا الناطق الرسمي باسم العائلة والوالد الكريم إلى أنه ما عندنا بنات تدرس في جامعات بعيدة، ما عندنا بنات تدرس في هندسة الكهرباء والميكانيك، هاي مش تخصصات البنات. طب يابا أنا إيش أدرس؟ رياضيات يابا، منيحة رياضيات، تشتغل معلمة ولا أحلى من هيك. معلمة؟ هون اكتملت الصورة اللي رسمها أبوي وأخوي، وأنا متأكدة شريك حياتي المستقبلي. لا بده يعني أضل قاعدة عنده بالبيت، لا شغل ولا تعليم سواقة ولا. هاي هي الصورة اللي رسمتها عناصر مختلفة في مجتمع يقوم على سيادة الذكر. الصورة اللي انرسمت في هذاك اليوم، يوم البلالين الزهرية. كلام كثير كبير صح، ليش نبسط الصورة شوي؟ أنا ما بقدر أنكر الدافع اللي بكون وراء أخوي من الخوف تبعه، من البسي هيك واحكي هيك ووقفي هيك. بس قادر أتصور على خطيبي مثلا لما يشوفوني ماسكة إيد الباب، سوسة صغيرة قليل الحيلة بيخرج لغابة مليئة بالذئاب. بس أنا أبوي رب السوس تاعه منيح، علموا الفرق بين الصح والغلط، علموا لازم يقضي وقته مع مين، علموا كيف يدافع عن حاله وما يكون عرضة للذئاب. سوس مش قليل، سوس جدع وقد حاله، ونظلم نفرض عليه يضل عايش بالعش تاعه ومنعينه يطير، لأنه عمره ما رح يتعلم إشي من يراقب الحمام وهو بيطير إذا ما جرب بنفسه. وحتى نقدر نطلع من المربع اللي بيرسموه بعض الأهل لازم نستعمل الأسلوب المناسب لإقناعهم، ونراعي إنه طبيعة مجتمعنا بتربي الذكر إنه يكون الزلمة واللي قد حاله قدامنا. الزلمة اللي ما بيخلي كلمته تصير تنتين. إقناعهم مش ضروري كتير، بس لازم يتقبلوا فكرة الطريق اللي سلكناه، وفكرة إنه إحنا أساساً جيدة التربية قد الطريقات. إحنا بنات تدرس اللي بدها إياه في المكان اللي بدها إياه طالما ما عم تغلط وعم بتحقق الهدف من دراستها. إحنا بنات تشتغل طالما هي واعية بتعرف تتعامل مع بيئة عملها بصورة بتعكس أخلاقها. عنا بنات تحضر كرة وبنات تسوق، وعنا بنات تدرس كهرباء وميكانيك. عنا بنات بتقدر تبني مجتمع بحرية مسؤولة ومنضبطة لأفكارها وخياراتها.
So the focus of this media sample for us is going to discuss this piece with the Create with Purpose criteria, a really impactful piece, and also focusing on the rubric criteria of relevancy. So Adobe's approach to youth media making is captured in 3 simple words, which is create with purpose. Youth Voices offers an intentional strategy for media making designed to have a lasting impact on the youth and their audience. So sort of looking at this piece and looking at the first criteria, which is relevant, we see that the youth is making connections to their real experiences their communities and their audience. The youth artist addresses issues and topics that are important to them and that will resonate with their audience. When we look at the second criteria, which is intentionality, the youth artists have identified who their audiences are and what they want their audiences to do in response to their work. Youth have made clear choices about media format, tone, and voice with their audience's mind. They've also used, there is intentionality in using the text that they have incorporated in the video in order to emphasize, um, the message that is being communicated via this piece. It is, the third criteria is personal, which is youth media isn't just youth made. It is a great youth media advocacy piece which reflects youth voice and shows the audience a unique perspective on an issue that only the youth artists who created the work could express. So it's also sort of adhering to the guideline of being personal, especially with the Create with Purpose rubric. It is collaborative because youth artists created their work as a result of a facilitated learning process, and you can see evidence of that in here, especially where educators and peers provided. You can see that there was a feedback loop in this piece, and there is a tremendous amount of collaboration between different media artists coming together and different modalities of media arts coming together. It is an original piece where youth stretch their imagination and defy a preconceived notion of what can be expressed with a given technology or format. The result of this work is both creative from the heart and is produced, with not just with an intention of entertainment, but also to educate and to have an impact. This piece you can see is inquiry based because throughout the media process, you can see that the youth are exploring their interests or pursuing answers to compelling questions that, sort of leading to their personal discoveries. So you can see evidence of that in this piece. And also it's a high quality piece because it's thoughtfully crafted and supports and heightens the message and the vision that this piece is, propagating. It is employing higher technical standards in terms of the audio, the video, and even the, making the message more acceptable across a world or a global audience by making it more accessible, and adding text into the media piece. So, some of these criteria are very well defined in the media piece that we have seen just now, which is meter by meter. And we will post a link to this piece in the Google Classroom for you to view as well. Moving on. It is very important that we adhere to the copyright guidelines when it comes to the youth media that is addressing a global audience. As we media artists and us consider the array of exhibition and distribution options, we should not overlook the issues of copyright and the consent of your subjects. So from the beginning, it is important to strive for to create works that are free of copyright infringements and ready for widespread distribution. The internet provides easy access to millions of media creations, which many young people are inspired to take and remix into compelling new works. The distinction for the youth voices is that we want young people to have wide distribution of their work and to take it out, also be available in the classrooms. So because all creative work is copyrighted, even the media projects that young people are about to produce need to understand the importance of media ownership and how to create works that are truly theirs and to share, and how they can share that with the world. So consider sort of building royalty-free libraries, obtaining written permissions from copyright holders, or encouraging you to generate their own images and music is a really great way of propagating this need for sticking with the, adhering to the copyright guidelines. So for any youth work to be featured on the Youth Voices website or in exhibitions or distributed for any kind of competitions, it is all works are copyrighted. This includes the work that youth will create and produce. There are times when you do not need to create the original creator of an image or audio file you reuse. For works in the public domain, it is a general rule. It is always best to credit anyone who previously created media elements in any work. There is a adherence to, you can copy creative materials for the purpose of parody or criticism. You can, according to the fair use doctrine. However, it is important to stress and encourage the creation and use of original content when facilitating youth media. And lastly, using copyrighted material restricts distribution and exhibition of media work. That's not really true. Be mindful of where you would like to show the media. Many festivals won't show copyright, won't show work containing copyright violations. So, being aware of copyright infringements or copyright guidelines right at the beginning is really helpful in making that media piece more available for distribution everywhere. For any young or youth artist work to be featured on the website or in any exhibitions or competitions, media must be strictly original material created by young people themselves. The reason for this is to ensure that Youth Voices media is uniquely creative and to avoid the possibility that a work cannot be distributed because it uses materials without permission. Release forms are as much a part of the media making, and we'll talk about the media making release forms that we use during the Youth Voice projects. Fostering responsible media making, especially when teaching copyright and responsible media creations to youth artists, ask you to consider the following questions. Do you see any recognizable logos, product, containers, etc. visible in any screens? If so, you either need to seek permission or you need to blur them out or make sure that you are following the copyright guidelines. Are you using someone else's music? Do you have permission to use it? Does your video contain any clips or segments taken from a private or commercial source? And do you have permissions to use that? Above all, you should strive to make works of their own creations. Youth Voices is about creativity and originality. Why copy a picture of your country flag from the web, especially if you can go out and take a picture with your camera? So sort of balancing the need for originality and creativity and figuring out how that aligns well with the copyright attribution guidelines. When young people create their own original work, they begin to understand, acknowledge, and respect the hard work of others. So something we want to quickly take you to the so this is a really great copyright guidelines for educators as well as for students. So breakthrough learning experiences can be created in multimedia, digital art, web animations, especially as you follow through with the copyright and release guidelines. So why should I be concerned about copyright and releases? Because of the following reasons. This is a great guideline to go with, over with your students, especially in terms of even copyright. What is copyright and how, sometimes they ask questions like, do I always have to credit the original creator? Even if you believe that the borrowed material is safe, falls under the fair use doctrine, the original creator must always be credited. So things like that are are helpful to go over with your students so that they sort of understand the copyright guidelines. In terms of, there is also some information about format guidelines, such as how many seconds is allowed without having to get permission, if there is any footage that you can use and stuff like that. Images of crowds, what do you get when do you get releases? Not when filmed in a public place, when there is no assumption of privacy. If an individual is singled out, then you would need a signed release for permission. So sort of, again, if you can get permission, it is always, it is ideally beneficial to seek permission from all the faces that are visible, even in a big public shot. So there are a lot of questions that we've tried to answer in this handout, and this will be posted in Google Classroom, but sort of also focusing on when don't I need to get releases or permission is also very helpful. So, you know, buildings filmed from public places, federal government works, objects in public domains. So sort of recognizing some of these avenues and media pieces and discussing those with your students. Multimedia, can I use images from the internet? So that is one of the most common questions that students ask, and as long as for non-commercial use, follow the guidelines above, which are mentioned in this handout. How do you cite images from the internet? And also this particular answer where you can get copyright-free images is very helpful. So there are a lot of lot of places where you can either buy media pieces or access copyright-free images, and these are some of those resources. Again, sort of recognizing the citing standards for media resources. Is a model release needed for a photography? Yes, and we'll talk about model releases in just a few seconds. And sort of also, you know, many a times you have in your videos, on your poster projects, you have corporate brands, and are we allowed to show corporate brands? In truth, as it said, it is ideal to avoid them, because the answer is no, because of you are not legally allowed to show brands, and that sort of gets into the gray zone related to copyright guidelines. So sort of staying away from them or blurring them out when you're using that. So for example, if you have a Coke logo or an Apple logo in there, trying to blur that out while you're making the computer still visible and not the Apple logo will be helpful with the media piece. And sort of, you know, following copyright guidelines really allows you to avoid release hassles. So final considerations for copyright checklist and what should I do to need to comply with the copyright release laws. These are really great guidelines in terms of following the copyright accreditation or accreditation, or sort of adhering to the Creative Commons CC licensing, and making sure that your media can be viewed by a global audience. So just go through this worksheet with your students so that they are aware of how important the copyright guidelines are for these media pieces, and having that thought process right at the get-go is very helpful. Secondly, I wanted to quickly go to the forms. When I refer to model release forms, this is the individual model release agreement. So if you have a student or any person visible in your piece, or if their audio, if you can hear them, it is advisable to seek model release from that student. They sign the parent signature, you have the date and the the signature from the guardian or parent and the artist, and that's your model release. You also get the NILA, which is non-exclusive license agreement, which allows the Youth Voices project to distribute and exhibit student media. So that's what this form allows you. So these are seeking permission from the youth artist. The copyright stays with the youth artist, but this non-exclusive licensing agreement allows for youth media to be distributed across a global audience or can be used in different classrooms. And this is what the licensing form allows for them to do. So you're getting the project name, the site name, which is the school name, the name of the youth artist, and then the signature, and parent or legal guardian signature. It is always helpful to make sure that your address is quoted correctly, and the date and the date and the year is quoted correctly. Uh, Most of the teachers try to give these forms out at the beginning of the year so that the copyright or licensing forms are completed, and then they put the project name at the end depending on the projects that they select to submit. So having like a mass student sign this right at the beginning of the class and then starting on your projects is also a helpful strategy that a lot of educators use. Let's quickly take a look at the copyright guidelines.
You're headed out to shoot some footage of peers or adults for your Adobe Youth Voices media project, and your program facilitator says that you need to collect a model release for all the people you speak with. Or maybe you found a song or image on the internet that you'd like to incorporate into your video or animation, but your program facilitator says copyright law prevents you from using it. What do? Adobe Youth Voices is all about creativity and originality. In this video, you'll learn how to create and use media following the Adobe Youth Voices guidelines for distribution. What is copyright? Copyright is a tool for media creators to have complete legal control over the use of their work. It gives professionals like authors, filmmakers, and inventors a set of tools to protect their creations from getting stolen or misused. It's a powerful law that can play a simple role in the work that you do as a media creator. In fact, if you've written an original script or poem, created a video, or even designed a poster, you automatically own the copyright. This means that you, the author, can choose if others may copy your work, distribute your work, perform or display your work, or even make derivative works. Under the US law of copyright, the author basically gets to pick and choose how their works are used. But this also means that as a media creator, you must be careful about how you use original media created by others. To put it plain and simple, if you'd like to use an original work that has copyright, you must get written permission by the author. Regardless of the country that you're in and beyond the law, this is about ethics and doing the right thing. Educators, we encourage you to teach your youth about copyright as an integral part of the media creation process. Avoiding copyright infringement. As part of understanding how copyright works, it's important to understand how to give permission and give credit when using works by others in your project. If you intend to use material created by others, the best thing you can do is contact the author and ask for a permission. This is also referred to as a license. If you do this, be sure to explain the specifics of how you plan to use their work and understand that they may ask for something in return, such as a fee or written credit. The other alternative is to make a unique work inspired by the original copywritten work. In this case, however, you do run the risk that the newly created work is unmistakably similar to the original. You could be infringing on the copyright. Fair use. There is, however, one exception to the rule, and that's fair use. Fair use of a copyrighted work is when the work is used for purposes such as criticism or commentary. For instance, if you'd like to write a poem that incorporates lyrics from a pop musician, consider how you're using it and the amount of content used. If it's used to create a critique of pop music and you only use a couple lines, this would likely be considered fair. But if you copy the chorus of the song and thus you share the same message, this would likely be infringement on the original copyright. The Adobe Foundation wants to distribute your work, but must follow these guidelines precisely. So the only time you can use copyrighted media is when you're commenting or critiquing the media. And even then, Adobe Youth Voices may be unable to distribute the final work. It's not always easy to distinguish these types of uses, and there have been many lawsuits to determine whether or not a use is fair. If there is any doubt whether something qualifies for the fair use exception, you should err on the side of caution and negotiate a license with the original copyright holder. No matter how you negotiate the use of someone else's material, always remember to cite your references in the credits of your final media work. As a media maker, you have rights and responsibilities surrounding copyright. So when in doubt, Make it original. When using copyrighted works by others, always seek permission and give proper credit. If you follow these simple guidelines and submit a non-exclusive license agreement, Adobe Youth Voices will do its best to distribute your work to a wide audience.
So that's your copyright guidelines video that you can use as a resource to showcase with your students and have a discussion about copyright. There is also a copyright quiz that students can go through, and it's a really great resource that we'll be posting on the Google Classroom. I also wanted to quickly take you to the career connection that Youth Voices allows. So let me quickly take you to so here we go.
I'm Naziwa Esther Beka. I'm 18 years old from Uganda, Gaza High School, and I was awarded the Adobe Foundation Creativity Scholarship. It was the Teachers' Day, my country Teachers' Day, so it was a big assembly. So we all went there and invited my school to showcase our media, because it's like the leading school when it comes to technology and stuff. So we had to showcase our media. The president was there, and he came around our stores, and he was really interested in what we do. At that point, we had a video about climate change and another on child abuse. But it was mostly about integrating project-based learning with the school curriculum, because it's really theoretical and you don't get to do much of the other stuff. So when you make it practical, it makes it much more interesting. So it was also like something better for the teaching aspect of the whole country. We made a video on poverty. There are all these people, their children and parents and stuff, but they live in small, I like to call them boxes. They're made of iron sheets, and you find like a drain with so much garbage, dirty water, sewage, and people are actually living comfortably like that. I was really disturbed by this whole setting, and like the whole slum issues and stuff. I know that like whatever we become, it has a lot to do with our background, the kind of environment we grow up in, the exposure we get. And so there's so many kids in these slums, and most of them, their lives are limited to that kind of setting. I mean, you bring in like the cameras and they're so bewildered, they do not know what's happening. Some of them don't even know what electricity is like. Okay, they live in the city, but their lives are terrible. They're terrible. And I just feel that's not fair to a kid. They deserve better. In school, I also do technical drawing. And part of it is building, so we do plans of houses and stuff. So I want to incorporate that, and that's where architecture fits in. Like work with NGOs and stuff to do like standard units where people can live and improve the housing generally in the city, make them affordable but good and in a good environment. So that's the kind of contribution I want to have to those people. There's nothing we can't do. I mean, AYV has given me a lot of power, I think. If we can make media, it gets a lot of audience, then we should be able to use that. And when you feel like something means a lot to you, I don't think it's limited to one person.
Hi, my name is Tae Kim, and I'm the founder of A-Light Designs. I grew up really poor in Anchorage, Alaska, and I've always dreamt about owning fancy outdoor gear. And my mom turned me on to sewing when I was young, and all I did was just make outdoor gear when I was 15. I was forced by my career counselor and my parents to go to Purdue University in Indiana, where I studied industrial design and engineering. And after that, I got a job with a Ford Motor Company designing cars. If you've ever been in a taxi cab or a police car, I designed the bumpers on the Crown Vic and stuff. So it was really fun and interesting, mainly working in the clay modeling studios. But I realized cars take a very long time to make it. It usually takes about 7 to 10 years to actually see one of your cars come to life. So I decided to go to grad school again and went to Stanford University for their product design program. And I got really back into like sewing, and I studied shoe design in grad school and applied to North Face right after school and became their design director of equipment. When you first started out working there, they would give you a ski pass to Squaw Valley and really pushed you to take time off and go snowboarding. For the longest time, I was like, I thought they were just joking. I thought it was a trick. I thought they were gonna fire me if I like used it too much. But they just really promoted like you getting outside and using the gear. And if you became an expert at using the gear, it would actually make you a really great designer. I think a lot of other people had a lot more confidence in me and gave me that push. I knew I was good at stuff, but it was only when I left Alaska, went to college, and interacted with a lot of people that I was able to build up my confidence. Designers, young creatives. I think the biggest thing is to understand what they really enjoy, figuring out who inspires them. I think those are key things to figure out. And then allowing their skill sets and their body of work to follow that path.
So these are some of the nuggets of wisdom that, that's a compilation of interviews from different media artists or creators who have gone on to creative careers. So there is a series that is posted on the Youth Voices website, which is right here. And you can always access those while interacting with the students about, potential careers and how they can take these, this learning experience forward in terms of a career move. Let's look at sort of the legal and ethical considerations for social media, because a lot of this work does get up on the social media and how that impacts. So focusing on some of these key questions that we posted here. So what's allowed in your school, or in our case in Boston Public Schools and in the program. Also reviewing the internet safety guidelines with the youth before engaging with the public online. There is Intel's guideline for internet safety are really great guidelines that a lot of educators have used. That's why we've mentioned it here. Definitely consider the age limit of the platform that the youth will be using. So if you're using Facebook, or if they are using Weebly's, or many different platforms, how they're sharing it, what is the guideline for that really allows to define the sharing options for the youth. When young people create their own original work, they begin to sort of understand, acknowledge, and respect the hard work of others. And that is really important because that falls into the copyright guidelines, but also focuses on the originality and creativity. And of course, the respect that brings to the media, especially when you are giving that recognition to the other artists. I think when we post, media pieces online, a lot of educators have talked about being vigilant about deleting responses that are not respectful or helpful to the dialogue, and sort of being vigilant about how youth are responding to the media works as well. So some of the educators advocate for showcasing some exemplars of what potential critical as well as positive responses would look like, and critical response technique that we have discussed in session 3 is a very good guideline or rubric for following sort of the response structure around media works. Consider creating your own web page or blog on a topic that help manage and direct conversation. So a lot of educators do that. They create a blog page where they post media works and sort of invite discussion. They also use the online SAMs or different critical response forums to invite that kind of discussion, but in a very in a safe environment. So that's another really great recommendation for our educators. And also the whole purpose of this is to engage youth in conversation about meaningful, purposeful, thought-provoking media pieces that have an impact with the audience and who the audience is and what the message is. So sort of keeping that goal in mind as you go through engaging youth, or them engaging each other in a respectful, creative dialogue. We are going to shift gears and look at the artist statement part of it, and sort of how to write an amazing artist statement. I'm going to show you the resource that we have. So there is a whole guideline about how you can write an artist statement. And artist statements, educators, you are probably already aware of the concept of artist statement, which is a brief explanation of an artist shares about his or her work on exhibit. So in Youth Voices, the artist statement represents a tool for youth development. So more than a project description, it's a statement that captures the voice and strengths and aspirations of the youth. So writing an artist statement is a learning activity in which you are sort of treating the youth artists as professional artists. You're respecting their creative process and encouraging them to be more thoughtful and reflective. They're also providing a meaningful way in which the artists can connect with their audiences and explain their youth media to the audience. And also sort of it's a really great artistic practice that demonstrates good reflective education and dialogue. So it's sort of from the artist to the audience, but it emphasizes the originality that the artist brings in terms of their their view of that media piece. I think, moreover, the youth artists can repurpose what they have written for the future endeavors in education or for their digital portfolio. These are some of the prompts that you can use, or few or all of them, depending on where the artist's focus is, in order to write their artist statement. The artist statement worksheet is designed to help youth artists think through different aspects of their creative process, especially after they generate an initial draft. They can share and serve. They can share that with you or with an audience of peers or educators, or even a global educator audience on Youth Voices community to seek feedback, and that can then be turned into their final artist statement, which obviously is open for revisions as well. So some of these infographics about artist statements, these will be posted on the Google Classroom as well. You can use those. And what I wanted to quickly show you was this as well. This is a nice little infographic about, media sites, on social media sites, and how one is breaching the copyright guidelines. So what are the myths? This is a great structure. They have the myths and then the fact about it, and how they're talking about how the myth is essentially not correct, and derivative works are still covered by copyright. So many a times they do alter the work that they are obtaining, and then they ask if they're really not aware that they're breaching copyright guidelines. So this is a nice infographic, a quick one that you can use to showcase some of these objectives for your students. And this too will be posted on the Google Classroom. So again, the artist statement, focusing on that, you have the handout, you will have an artist statement worksheet, but sort of focusing on the project description. The statement is a learning activity, so reflection on the creative process and their own growth is very helpful in writing the artist statement. So this is an example of an artist statement that a student from Boston Latin School wrote for one of his projects. It talks about his passion, it talks about his work experience, how that brought him into, designing and creative careers, and sort of there is also a portion of it which talks about the media piece, which is comes from the from his experiences or his family's experiences. So having two portions to your artist statements is also very helpful. Definitely a artist statement should include an explanation of who the artist is, where they're from, or anything that would that they would like the audience to know, especially if they are contributing in terms of the media piece, or why they chose to make the media piece. In any way they had to especially connect with that media piece, or the message of that media piece, ideas for how they would like to apply their skills and talents and ideas for any future creative endeavors. So things like that, or connecting to the creative career. So what's their aspiration? Some of those pieces can also be included in the artist statement. Having said that, we are going to quickly move on to, with the time in mind, we're going to move on to the projects that we're doing today. We are going to do a Words of Wisdom project and the Adobe Spark, in Adobe Spark, and then we are going to go into designing the design challenge. So let me quickly go to this screencast or the Hangout that I've already recorded. Give me a quick second. Okay. So this is a piece where we designed this as a creative challenge project for one of the media arts professional development session. So you're going to look at Adobe Spark as a tool and how to design a poster within that tool, and then we are going to go on to the creative design poster. So here we go. We'll go to Adobe Spark right now, so give me a quick second. With Adobe Spark, all you need is, if you have an Adobe ID, use that, and you can get it. It's free. You can create projects for free. You can post them on social media. This is how your setup will look like. I've just played with some. I have a dummy account that I've created, and I've played with some of the projects. But sort of keeping in mind, what tools it offers, it is not as expansive as like a graphic design tool like Photoshop, but this does a really good job. And up here, you have some exemplars of how they've worked with some of the projects. So you could definitely take a look at that. Let's see. We are going to go into the one of the projects that I have looked into, and it's Words of Wisdom project. So we've been doing this series with students and educators, and it's sort of famous, inspiring people and their inspiring quotes, but sort of making sure that we are we're making use of images and that adhere to copyright guidelines. So here is your basic post. Let me go back to the Spark. So this yellow button here gives you an idea of how to create any of the projects. You could do a post project which allows for social posts and graphics, great for memes, inspirational quotes, announcements, invitations, and more. You could use the page for web stories. So there are really some great examples of this, and we try to do one example of this at a later stage as well. And there's of course video, which are not the full-fledged Final Cut or Premiere Pro videos, but these are animated videos, great for lessons, pitches, presentations, that kind of stuff. And there are some really good examples of this. And they also use some templates. It's within this. If you've already worked with Adobe Voice, this is the place where you go in to sort of start making your videos, and you could share it via social media. So for today, we are going to create a post. And when I click on post, it asks me, what do I want to say? But what I'm interested in is showing you this picographic size. So I can create an image for my Instagram, for my Facebook, for my Twitter, slide. So I'm going to create a poster. But you have more sizes in here, which is and on and on and on about, LinkedIn cover, YouTube thumbnail, landscape, widescreen, portrait, many different options. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a poster. I want to create a poster, which is what I did. So let me go back because I don't want to create one here. I'm just going to use an existing one. And this is what I got in here. You get a poster, and then you have up on the right hand corner, you have some options. So what I'm going to show you is I could choose my 4:3 slide size, a poster, or widescreen, or a portrait size, and many different sort of a banner, a tall poster, which could be used for an infographic and stuff like that. So you have different formats you could use for your poster. So that's the resize option. The theme option essentially gives you some suggested themes for your existing poster. So you could do something like this, or depending on, like, this would be a great poster as well, or depending on what your message is and what you're trying to depict, you could use any of these themes to put text on your poster. So if I just choose a theme, my theme is, if I choose a theme, it would literally go back to what this is. I don't want to change it right now, so I'm going to stick to it. But if I click on this, it will, the text will change to this format. Having said that, let's go to the palette. And palette just gives you an option in terms of different colors. So if I do that, it gives me the option, but I can choose red, if you see, or black. That becomes my basis for this, or this. So it depends as to how you would like that, or I can choose a different theme in here. There are many ways in which I can dress it up. So this is a really nice theme as well, or this. It depends on what you like, or you can just choose theme and it will go accordingly. So right now we have this. That looks good to me. I'm going to go into the photo. Here is where I can change some effects on my photo. So I could bring in the REM effect, or Theo effect, or this effect, which looks great, or this, or I could even change it to this, depending on what my theme is, or have no effects on there. I'm going to go to this. This gives me sort of a look. So I'm going to go in there. These are just filters. I can modify the filters. So if I go in there and if I say rotate, it will give me a rotation of my image. Yep. Do I want to rotate? No. Do I want to zoom in like that? Maybe. If I want to do that, I could do that. That can bring it in really nice. Or I could even just do the eyes, move my poster around, or I could, something like that. It depends on what you want to create with your poster. So something like this might work well for me. So I'm going to stick to that. Let's see if I can use that. Yes, that is beautiful to me. I'm going to keep that, and then I go into text. Now, text is a great way you can do many different style suggestions right here. So I can change my styles, and as you see, it changes. It changes to many different styles like that. So I could do something like this, which looks great too, or like that. Or, you keep on rotating, and it will give you different suggestions for different existing style formats that are really great. And you keep on changing until you find one that you like. You can play around with the style. Or let me see if I got mine. Okay, so that's where I was. So I'm just going to cancel it, and it's going to go back to where I was. But you know, it'll allow you to change shape. So I have many different options in here. I could choose this. I could choose this. That was what I had chosen initially, but I could do something like this or something like this. I can change the direction of it, so I could do that. That's a great way of bringing it in. Or I have this sort of a block which is not even, but you know, gives you that very natural effect. So I can do that. So there are many different ways in which you can integrate the existing design with some of these themes. I'm going to do that. Cancel it because I have this already. The colors give you option with color. Fonts give you the option of the fonts. You can use many different fonts in here, and they're really great. So you can pretty much choose some of these, and then spacing allows you to sort of, you know, if you want to bring it in or not. So you know, this will squish it in or make it bigger. Alignment, and then opacity. So opacity is essentially, you know, right now I don't have much in there, but something like this. As you see, as I'm moving this way, the opacity is decreasing, and then I come in this way, it increases. So I could do that. I could probably keep it here, and that gives it this nice transparent, translucent effect. So I can keep this. If I'm happy with this, I could go in here and share it out. I can also export it and save it as a PDF, but those are some of the options. You can add another text box to this. So I can say be brave, and I get another text box, and I can play around with that text box with different sort of, you know, messaging. So sometimes if you're creating a typography poster with different words can be of different fonts, and they can be placed in different ways, and they can be turned around. So you can create a really interesting poster using the different fonts here. Of course, it allows you to make them. It's very easy to resize these fonts, so that's a good sort of tool for you to explore. So I'm quickly gonna go in here. Either you can edit it or delete it. I'm gonna delete that. I'm happy with this poster. So I'm gonna go back to it's just going to automatically save my post. And then I have that. Then in here, I'm just making sure all the images that I get are, you know, copyright free. So I go in here, and I have a different image that I brought in. I can play around with my image. I can make it sort of in this vein, which I like. So I'm going to do that. It's a nice watercolor effect that I got, or I could go into the Marians. But this is great too. So I could stick with that or stick with the original, and then make those modifications depending on how I like that. I could go in here, so it changes it to a much bigger view, and I could also change the palette. I could change the, so I have the shape that I've chosen in here, which is this, but I could bring in so you could change the shape that I'm getting right. So I have that, or I could move it here, and that's a great sort of quick poster that you could bring in. Just making sure all your images and everything that you bring in is copyright or following the copyright guidelines. So that's your poster number 2. And we'll keep creating more in here. My intention next time is to sort of get you to do a video at maybe session 10 or 11. But before that, we'll also do a web page as well. So that's your Adobe Spark. Let's get back to the project. And the second project that I wanted to get you involved in is this creativity. So one of the things that we are going to design is this project. That's your final product, and you're going to get all these files with you. But we also have a tutorial for you, which is a quick sort of guideline about how to do this project. We have a light bulb PNG, which you will be using to create the mask for these text effects. And then this was another one that we have looked into, but we have a tutorial video that we will be providing you in this webinar. So this webinar will show you how to do this. And you can use either the webinar or the handout to complete this project for your homework. So today's homework is going to be creating that creativity poster using different typographies. And you can, if you want, you can use Adobe Spark, but it's going to be tricky to position all those words within the context of the creativity bulb. So we want you to play with Photoshop elements if you can to create this project. And the instructions are provided with Photoshop elements. So let's quickly get to the project. And I'm going to let Michelle speak about it so quickly. Before we begin, what we've done is we are trying, we did the trial version just so that you could see how it looks. It's exactly the same. You get 30 days on the trial, so you could play around with elements 12, or I think 13 is out now. And we will give you the licensed copy for 12 as soon as you complete your assignments and become part of Youth Voices project, because that's how we get access to QP licenses.
I will continue my trial. Then you're going to go to File, New, Blank File to open up a new Photoshop file. You're going to change these pixels to inches so that we can have a file of 13 by 19, which is the poster size, and the resolution needs to be at 300. Click OK when done. Once you have made your new file, you're going to change the layout setting from Quick, which is the default setting, to Expert. This will give you more options and tools. Next, you are going to place an image of a light bulb that we will use. You will find it under File, Place. In your Images for Creativity project, lightbulb.png. Click Place. Now click on the green check mark when it's done. Now that you have placed this image, you are going to simplify it. So in the Layers panel, right click on the light bulb layer and find Simplify Layer. This layer is now a simple layer. change the color of the graphic from black to white. And to do this, you go to Edit, Fill Layer. In this pop-up window, you are going to change the content from background color to white, and make sure the Preserve Transparency box is checked. Click OK when done. The light bulb will now be invisible, but really it's just white as is the background color. There it is. Next, you are going to use the bucket tool found in the tools bar here to change the background color from white to black. Make sure that in the color picker, black is the first color on top of the white. This is the foreground color, this is the background color. Once you make sure it's black, go on the layers panel and click on the background layer so that it is activated. Then click on the white canvas and it should turn black. Now you can see the white bulb, the white light bulb. Let's make sure that we don't lose our file, so we are going to go to File, Save As to save our process. In the desktop, you should have created a folder with your last name and first name, and in there you are going to save your file as last name, creativity, and the format should be Photoshop file, of course. Once you are done with that, you can save. Next, you're going to start typing. So in the tools bar, you're going to find the type tool. You click a T. Here you have some type options like the font, size, and positioning. So you should have the horizontal type tool. To start typing, just click on the canvas. Of course, you gotta make sure that the color is the one you want. So I will be typing in yellow, but you can pick any color that looks alright on top of the black. So I pick my color, I'm gonna start typing. You select it all, you can change the font and sizing. Once you are done typing this one word out, click on the green check mark. Now you can do some repositioning. To do that, go on the tools bar and click on the move tool, which is the very top tool. Looks like an arrow. Then click and drag. Place it wherever you want. Now, you're going to have to repeat the same step until the entire light bulb is completely filled with type. So you can see the type better, I suggest you move the light bulb layer underneath your type, but on top of the background layer. You can also lower the opacity. This will allow you to see the type better.
So one of the things to keep in mind as you're doing this project is at the end we of youth for let me quickly switch to our presentation. Yes. So one of the things to keep in mind as you are going through this project is that all the assets are available to you. We'll be providing you, providing all of those assets in the Google Classroom. And then making sure that, again, you are, this is just about creativity. So this could be a potential project that you can do with Youth Voices, but you can also do many different typography projects. In the YouTube section of DLT, where we have the Youth Voices design playlist, we have a lot of resources that are posted in the playlist, and I will try to show you those. If you go to the, give me one quick second, and I'll try to get to that playlist so that you can view it. There are a lot of projects that we have posted in that playlist. So let me switch to that quickly. So in here, as you can see, there are the 3 core training videos, and this 4th session will also be posted in here. But you also have a lot of these creative design challenges which focus on different projects, including the one with the Dark Knight or other typography posters. So you could use any of these while making projects for the Youth Voices. So going back to our presentation. Right. So we're right at the, you have 2 projects. We're going to talk a little bit about the implementation plan, which is part of your homework assignment. So this is what the implementation plan looks like. This is something that you're going to fill up at the end of October 10. And if you're participating in the Youth Voices project, we definitely need this from you. Funding permitted, we hope to get you the honorarium or the media mentors into your classroom to assist. You get to choose, but we need this information from you in order to schedule that. It includes information about the courses you'll be teaching, what are sort of the learning objectives that you are addressing, or what is an assessment plan. So for example, the project that the students do can serve as an assessment for you to that you use Create with Purpose rubric to evaluate. There are also, focus on sort of once you have had a discussion with your students, you could also talk about the projects, or as specific as or detailed as the genres of the project. What is the key guiding question? If the students are choosing video, posters, or photography, audio pieces to make, you can sort of explore through this implementation plan to see to communicate with us in terms of this is the data that you're thinking of right at the beginning of your project planning stage, and then you are interacting with the students. Do keep in mind, things change. There's tremendous flexibility in terms of, you have submitted an implementation plan, but your final project might look completely different from what you originally envisioned. So obviously that flexibility is built in. Please do not worry about it. If you've set a poster and you made a video, obviously, creativity is factored into this, but it sort of emphasizes your commitment in terms of doing the project, and also that you're thinking about projects and assessments and standards while you are thinking about student projects. So that's your implementation plan right there. we'll post the link to the implementation plan into the Google Classroom. Just these are the 5 categories that we submit projects in. Obviously, you have infographics, which will go into the graphic design category. So they are condensed, but sort of using these categories while talking to your students about the projects that they're doing is always helpful. Again, we've talked about the media making process and the 5 sections of it, but definitely go over this with your students all over again every single time you have a discussion, so that they are aware of, what's the pre-production, which is one of the most important processes that they should be focusing on as they go into the classrooms in October. So that, and then sort of going into the critique and revision, and then the exhibition and distribution, and what that scope and the timeline looks like for them is very important. We've provided this handout worksheet on the BPS Youth Voices wiki, which is the website for a lot of curriculum resources. You can use this as you go through Rough Cut or post Rough Cut in order to finalize your projects. I'm going to quickly go through this because this is going to be a link that I'm posting. We've gone through the storytelling basics 1, 2, 3 sessions in our webinar, and this is the 4th session, which is right up here. And the link to this will be posted. They talk about scripts and treatments and how emphasizing each and every individual parts of the process. So this will be part of the resources posted in the Google Classroom as well as on the wiki. We do need you to go through this in order to complete the core educator training, so that you are aware of some of the basic components of effective storytelling and you've gone through the series. There is the online SAMS link, which is posted on the Google Classroom. Do complete the educator contract, production kit, and timeline review, and send us the educator contract if you are looking forward to participating in the Youth Voices project this year. It helps us in getting your funding for stipends and for the production kit. So please do send that to us by October 10th. And the last but not the least, this will be posted in the Google Classroom. There will be an exit ticket, the Photoshop activity, which is the creativity poster that you just saw. We do have a critical response technique, so a film and a poster will be posted. And the Spark project, it's up to you if you would like to try it out, but I highly recommend it because it allows you to play with the tool and allows you to create a project within that, create an account, and you can start building your projects exemplars for your students. But it's not required as an assignment. What is required is the education implementation plan that we just showed you. So that you need to submit, and all of these need to be submitted. All the assignments from session 1 to session 4 need to be submitted by October 10th for PDP credit considerations. I did show you the resource link, which has a lot of videos. It's the playlist on the DLT channel, YouTube GLT channel. So that also has tutorials about creating a banner in Google Drawing, or creating a poster in Google Drawing, Google Slide, Pixlr. You also have Photoshop and Illustrator, and more will be populated in there in order to sort of broaden the scope of the different tools that are being used. The links to that will also be posted on the BPS Youth Voices wiki. But we also have, I quickly wanted to show you this classroom, which you will be invited to, so do join in, which has a lot of resources around Photoshop activities, or that I have just I've created these different exemplars. So for example, vintage artwork, you have this handout where you could be creating a poster which looks like this. So which has some watercolor effects, some vintage artwork, okay? And this is posted on the wiki, Youth Voices wiki, and you will be able to follow through the directions that are provided. The links to everything is provided, and you could modify some of this to build a project such as this. So a lot of this is posted. So there are about 12 to 13 projects which are posted in here in the Google Classroom. So do email me if you are interested in joining this classroom and taking a look at some of these projects. And last but not the least, as I showed you in the playlist, we have a lot of screencasts and videos that are being posted. So do join in. You don't have to watch all of them, but you can, watch a few of them, or depending on the project that you are doing, you can always contact me, or we have office hours, or we can set up a time to in your school to present about Youth Voices or talk about the projects. Thank you again. I hope you had, this is the session 4, which is the last session for the Youth Voices Core Educator training. But if you are interested, please do let me know, or if you have other teachers. And thank you again. Talk to you soon.